You know, I used to think it was the Obama administration, but boy, Obama during this Kamala Harris administration, it changed my opinion of that guy.
Boom. Really? Did you have a high opinion of him before?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. Just as an intelligent person, a statesman, I felt like he's probably like caught up in the system. It's very difficult to make real meaningful change.
Wow, how could Trump, equivocate on this whole thing? And then it took just a little bit of digging, just a little bit, because all you have to do is extend the clip 45 seconds.
Yeah. Joe Rogan is now taking aim at Barack Obama, saying the former president ended up damaging his own legacy. When Obama first ran for the White House, he leaned hard into identity politics, and it worked. Large parts of the country were pulled in by the message. Later, Kamala Harris tried to use that same playbook, but this time it failed badly. Rogan says that failure can be traced right back to Obama, and he lays out his case clearly, using clips to support his argument.
We did trust the government, but which is such a weird thing to say. You know, I used to think it was the Obama administration, but boy, Obama during this Kamala Harris administration, it changed my opinion of that guy.
Boom. Really? Did you have a high opinion of him before?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. Just as an intelligent person, a statesman, I felt like he's probably like caught up in the system. It's very difficult to make real meaningful change. You know, you think you're going to do something, and then you get into office, and you're like, oh God, what a quagmire this place is. But watching him just straight up lie about Trump, the thing that got me was that very fine people thing, the white supremacist thing. They just kept trying to say that he was a racist, which is this thing that I think worked in like 2017.
Joe Rogan reflected on a time when he took Barack Obama at his word during the lead up to the election. And he says he wasn't alone. According to Rogan, more than half the country followed that same path, even while feeling unsure. Many people accepted the idea that Donald Trump was a fascist, a racist, and even a white supremacist. Those labels were repeated so often from so many directions that they began to feel like proven facts instead of political talking points. Rogan argues the goal was simple: shape how people saw Trump before they had a chance to decide for themselves. Once that picture was locked in, questioning it became unacceptable. Anyone who pushed back was instantly placed in the same box. Looking back now, Rogan calls it a wake-up moment, showing how easily public opinion can be shaped when powerful voices speak with confidence and the media echoes them without challenge.
Yeah.
You know, I think it worked back then. I don't think it works anymore. I don't think people believe it anymore. I think that we've gotten numb to all this stuff.
Well, it's a sky is falling thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like, you cry wolf or whatever. It's like, you guys can only call me a fascist so many times.
Rogan now says that almost no one believes that story anymore, and that the loss of trust played a big part in why voters moved toward Trump. After years of constant accusations and over-the-top warnings, people started to notice a pattern. The same extreme claims kept coming back, but for many voters, real life never matched the panic being pushed. What once sounded convincing slowly began to feel forced and scripted. Rogan believes much of what was said about Trump wasn't a fair assessment, but a political strategy meant to stir emotions and hold on to power for figures like Obama and later Kamala Harris. Over time, voters didn't just grow doubtful, they became resistant and eventually pushed back. Rogan describes last year's election as the breaking point, saying many voters rejected fear-driven messaging instead of falling for it. According to Rogan, for a lot of Americans, the election marked the turning point. He says voters increasingly brushed aside scare tactics, media groupthink, and political spin, reacting not just to the candidates, but to a deeper mistrust of the narratives being sold to them.
Well, she also has been saying something really crazy. She's been saying that this is the closest race of the 21st century, and that it wasn't a mandate. That's just not true.
It's not true.
Gore and Bush was much closer.
Yes.
I think that was a 0.5%.
Yes. I don't know why she keeps saying this.
It's just a lie. And then also she's leaving out the fact that she lost every swing state, every single one.
Yeah.
So, like, what are you talking about?
I know. It's
he
crazy.
won the popular vote, and he won the Electoral College vote, and that's a mandate. Say that it's not a mandate. It's like, but it's almost like if you say it to the converted, that they're going to listen and repeat it. Yeah, he barely won.
Right.
Like, no, he won.
Yeah.
He won every swing state.
Rogan says Kamala Harris and the Democratic National Committee are still shaken by how badly they lost in last year's election. He argues that simple embarrassment explains why some leaders are still struggling to accept the result and what it revealed about voters. He adds that anyone in Kamala's position would feel the same way. Losing is painful, but losing by a wide margin is a reality check. But discomfort doesn't change the facts. The truth remains the truth, whether people want to face it or not. Rogan says admitting a clear defeat is often the first real step toward rebuilding trust and making a serious comeback. That requires honest reflection, taking responsibility, and being truthful. You can't fix a problem if you refuse to admit it exists. Until the Democratic National Committee openly faces where it went wrong, why its message failed, and why voters turned away, Rogan believes it will keep making the same mistakes. Political recovery doesn't start with denial. It starts with humility, self-awareness, and the willingness to change course instead of blaming everyone else. That lesson, he says, is still very clear.
I think she took credit for the no tax on tips things in the book as well.
That's hilarious because that was clearly his.
Clearly.
He said it first and they copied it.
It's amazing.
Did she really say that in the book?
I haven't read it, but I have heard from someone who did read it that she did. So people.
She had to address not coming on here in the book too, which I thought was funny.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Rogan then shifted his focus to Kamala Harris, criticizing her for trying to take credit for the so-called no tax on tips policy. Rogan says anyone who follows politics with even a little honesty knows that the idea, at least in the way it's been promoted in recent years, originally came from President Trump. It was never a long-time Democratic position. It was a campaign message Trump used on purpose, and it worked, especially with working-class voters. Rogan argues that Harris tried to rewrite that history, assuming voters wouldn't notice the change. To him, it was just another example of political spin, and one that failed badly. People didn't buy it, and the election results made that clear. What bothered Rogan the most, though, was that this kind of behavior didn't stop even after the loss.
Her team was not truthful about that encounter at all. They never committed to doing the show, ever.
Yeah.
They said that, I said that I had a personal day, which is not true. I said I am not available the day that Trump was here. I said that day's not. I didn't say that I have a personal day. They just made that up.
That's crazy.
And then they also said that they sent someone here to go through the studio, like sent someone to do a walkthrough.
Yeah.
Not true.
No.
Not true.
Dude. How can they? I mean, it's just you repeat it and you say it and your side believes it.
But
and move
why
on.
would they do that when I can just say that's not true?
It's bizarre.
Rogan says that even after the defeat, Harris kept trying to take credit for ideas and policies that were never hers in the first place. He doesn't see that as confidence. To him, it looks like denial and an unwillingness to accept political reality. You would think there would be a line drawn at claiming ownership of policies you didn't create, but Rogan argues that line was never drawn. He also says her team tried to twist the story around his podcast. There was a huge public push for Kamala Harris to sit down with Joe Rogan, yet the interview never happened. The official explanation sounded convenient. The story going around was that Rogan took a personal day on the exact date the interview was supposed to happen. That version spread fast and was treated as fact. Rogan now says that story isn't true. Instead of admitting the interview fell apart on their side, he claims the campaign chose to redirect the blame and push a different narrative.
Yeah, I'm not. Why would I lie? I have no reason to lie.
So it would have been interesting to.
If I her over, I would tell the truth.
Yeah.
If I was like, we lied, we told her I was taking a personal day, but realized I wanted to get Trump in. Not true. I tried to do both of them in the same day. That was my idea.
That would have been amazing.
My idea was to do Trump during the day, and then her to come. She had a thing she was doing in Houston. After the thing with Houston, I go, I'll do it at midnight. I don't care. We'll do it whenever you want to do it.
Yeah.
While you're in Texas, but I just can't do during the day because Trump's going to be here.
Yeah.
But they had to have known. I mean, the Secret Service there was 200 guys here. They had
in Texas.
No, in this studio.
No.
There was 200 people here for Trump.
For Trump. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not exaggerating. It was packed.
Wow.
Honestly, it's hard not to think that Kamala Harris simply didn't want to face Rogan's platform directly. Joe Rogan isn't known for soft, scripted questions, and he doesn't stay inside anyone's comfort zone. His interviews are long, unscripted, and unpredictable. Exactly the kind of environment where vague talking points fall apart quickly. Compare that to the now well-known 60 Minutes interview where the network was reportedly accused of editing Harris's answers to make them sound cleaner and more polished. That alone raised questions. Rogan would never offer that kind of safety net. There would be no edits, no rewrites, and no producers fixing things afterward. It would have been just Harris, a microphone, and real-time follow-up questions. That's the real risk. Rogan's audience values authenticity above all else, and you can't hide behind rehearsed lines for 3 straight hours. If a message can't survive an open conversation, then maybe the problem isn't the interviewer, but the message itself.
Someone had to know something that he was here.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a mystery. But I
Bringing
said,
the dogs through.
But I wasn't trying to be deceptive. I said, I'll do it later.
Right.
I just can't do it during this time.
That's the excuse they took.
They want to do
That's
it.
like, okay, they took that excuse.
They never
because,
wanted to do the
no,
whole thing.
Never.
They wanted to do like a 45-minute thing in a different place. They didn't say scripted, but they did say that there were some things that she didn't want to talk about. And then they denied that.
Yeah. That's what I meant by scripted. Yeah.
I said, I don't care. I'll talk to you about cooking. I don't give a. I just want to know, who are you? I'll figure you out.
Yeah.
I'll figure you out in a few hours.
Yeah, in 3 hours, you can't fake your way through a conversation like this.
No, I'll find you.
Yeah.
I'll find you.
It looks like Kamala Harris's team simply didn't believe she could handle a 3-hour, free-flowing conversation with Joe Rogan. Instead, they pushed for a tightly controlled 45-minute interview. And it's not like they didn't know how Rogan's show works. His podcast is famous for running close to 3 hours, with no scripts, no teleprompters, and no easy exits. Even with that well-known format, her team reportedly insisted on strict limits, not just on time, but also on location. They wanted a setting they could control, manage, and keep polished. That detail alone says a lot. Rogan's platform is built on authenticity, long conversations, and unscripted back and forth. Cutting that down to 45 minutes misses the entire point. When a candidate can't hold an open conversation without guardrails, voters notice. If that doesn't reveal something deeper about Kamala Harris, her confidence, her preparation, or her reliance on handlers, it's hard to see what would.
What are you trying to do?
Right.
Like, you could close that border. Trump closed that border in a day.
Amazing.
In a day. You could say, I hate what's going on with ICE, and I don't like it either. I don't like this thing of like taking people. And here's the thing. Well, they should have done it the right way. Yeah, okay. But if you're poor and you live in a third world country, that's not an available option. Okay, what is an available option is this one administration over 4 years is encouraging people to go through.
Yeah.
Not only are they encouraging you to go through, there's Red Cross stops along the way. They give you maps. They tell you how to do it. They're funding people getting in. They're paying for air flights.
Yeah.
They're flying people in. They're moving people into swing states. They're getting them on Medicare.
I would have loved to hear Kamala Harris answer if Joe Rogan had pressed her on why the border situation was allowed to get so out of control. That conversation alone would have been must-listen material. Rogan doesn't settle for buzzwords or polished deflections. He pushes for details, timelines, and accountability, and that's exactly where things would have gotten uncomfortable. Harris was widely called the border czar, tasked with managing the crisis, and critics argue that under her watch, millions of migrants crossed with what they saw as weak enforcement and limited screening. That sparked backlash not just from conservatives, but also from independents and even Democrats in border states. A Rogan interview would have forced her to face those outcomes head-on, with no edits, no talking points, and no studio cleanups, just direct questions and long-form answers. That's why many believe the interview never happened. When voters hear raw, unscripted explanations, excuses fall apart and accountability is unavoidable. In the end, Harris's attempts to claim policies, control narratives, and avoid unscripted scrutiny revealed more than she probably intended. From taking credit for Trump's ideas to steering clear of Rogan's platform, image management often seemed to matter more than transparency. Voters saw through it, holding leaders accountable for their words and actions, and demanding honesty over spin. And that wraps up today's video. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button and subscribe for more content like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.